Life emerges, and one day it ends. In between, time passes. Over time, minds and bodies change. Along life's journey, there is a time to play, a time to learn, and a time to breed. A time to share life's lessons. Those who reach old age are fortunate. They have overcome every danger. But inevitably, they must say goodbye. Aging, it's a passage through time, and no two paths are the same. Since the first simple cells appeared on our planet, life has flourished and diversified. Lifespans have diversified too. For fish or coral, how long is a long life? With each species on its own unique evolutionary path, some have lifespans that are fleetingly short. Others have evolved to be extremely long-lived. A remote island in the heart of the Indian Ocean holds some of the secrets of longevity. Here we find a reptile that has walked the Earth very slowly for nearly 200 million years. The Aldabra giant tortoise is famous for its long life. Though once found on much of this archipelago's islands, the species is now threatened with extinction. Curious Island has become this tortoise's last refuge. Park Ranger Alan Cedras knows all about their past and now concerns himself with their future.
They were introduced here, Curious Marine National Park, since the late 17th, and we have been letting them colonize area which they need to colonize and let nature take its course according to whatever they want to move out. We have no restriction or moving them in one place or another. We just let them live freely on this island.
Alan grew up here. To him, the tortoises are more than just a conservation project. They are part of the island's identity.
So this is one of the land tortoise that stays in the wild. It's a number 100 plus and 107. This is for identification. So this one is an adult male, probably around 70 years old. And if you look at the shell, you can still see the white line. This means that it is still growing, okay? And clearly there's a concave shape underneath, which proves that it is a male.
At the age of 70, this male is in the prime of his life. He may live to be 250. It's a feat of longevity, unmatched in all other land animals. Its heavy shell makes up much of its 300-kilogram body. Weightlifting with each step, slow plodding is the price it pays for indestructible armor. Its heart rate and digestion are just as slow. Living a long life often means taking things slowly.
And you can notice it's mostly grass. The way they feed, they just cut and swallow. They mostly eat grass, so you will see. And they have a very slow metabolism, and after a week or two, this will come out, and they've sucked in all the chemicals that is in it.
Its vegetarian diet may also aid in its longevity. Stress can accelerate aging. But this tortoise lives a life of tranquility, punctuated by frequent naps. After a nap, the only real exertion of the day is reserved for mating. A tortoise tryst awaits. This female is receptive. In tortoise coupling, keeping your balance is a tricky business. Soon, the female will lay 10 to 20 eggs, which, buried underground, will incubate all alone for 8 months. Island life has its advantages. There are few predators here, but one of those predators is now on the prowl. Adult tortoises have little to fear here, but for the eggs and babies, it's a different matter. These crabs are one of the dangers they must avoid to survive. With age, tortoises outgrow most dangers, aside from humans and their pets. They had been led to the brink of extinction by passing sailors, but the species now enjoys protection and careful monitoring. These baby tortoises receive 2 to 3 years of Alan's attentive care. Then they will be released into the wild, where they may live out their lives for another 2 centuries or more. Over time, animals are shaped by nature. This giant, a modern relic of an ancient Earth, continues its slow march through time. The potential lifespan of every living thing is encoded in its DNA. Only the most cunning and strong survive. Life experience is an asset. While old age and senescence are often linked, they are different. Aging refers to the inevitable passing of time. Every living being gets older. Senescence is the mind and body's decline with age. African elephants are another long-lived species. Individuals can live up to 70 years or more. Like the tortoise, the elephant's metabolism is slow. An old elephant is a wise sage. Its learned experiences help guide the whole community. In the elephant world, older females lead the herd. Each family has a matriarch. The matriarch leads the community not by brute force, but with her wisdom. All follow and obey her, especially the most vulnerable, the young. A baby elephant is born with an immature brain. It must be taught how to do everything. Mother elephants are extremely protective of their young. Siblings, aunts, and grandmothers also play a role in protecting and teaching the calves. These young elephants are the future of the herd. Today's lesson is about mud. Mud protects against parasites and sunburns. Elephant research has been going on here since the 1970s. That makes it one of the world's longest studied populations. This is researcher Vicky Fishlock.
It's incredibly rewarding to follow animals over their whole life history, but we haven't managed to do that yet for these elephants. We've been going for more than 4 decades. We're into our 44th year now, and we think that our average female in Amboseli lives to be 45 years old. We've documented individuals living well into their 70s. And what we've become very interested in is this idea of how an animal's life changes as they age, and what that means for them and their social and reproductive success and their networks and friendships.
Studying elephants of all ages through time has led to many discoveries and many new questions. One recent discovery is that once they've reached maturity, female elephants are capable of giving birth for virtually their entire lives.
Oh, no, this is Ella. This is Echo's sister, who has been hardly with the family for ages.
Ella has been photographed and observed since the research began.
Hello, sweet girls. So yeah, she's 50. She's still giving birth. She's probably pregnant again right now.
Ella is a member of the well-known EB family. Her sister, Echo, was one of the family's great matriarchs. When Echo died, Ella became the oldest. That meant the matriarch's empty spot was hers to fill. But Ella showed no interest in leadership. It was finally Enid, her younger sister, who stepped up for the job.
And this is my girl, Enid. Enid is not only the daughter of a matriarch, she's also got all the traits of a leader. She keeps the family together, and she's a really strong rallying point.
All this time in the field has given researchers the privilege of watching these powerful pachyderms up close and better understanding their lives. Over the years, Vicky has witnessed many births and deaths.
We don't know very much about the diseases of old age. We have found some evidence of a couple of bone tumors. We've seen some individuals that we think may have some arthritic-style problems, but really they do incredibly well, usually until the point where they're no longer extracting their food and they suddenly tend to go downhill. And at that point, we tend to find that females will stay close to water, within the swamps here where there's soft vegetation. Often the family will leave them at some point because she is no longer able to direct them to where they want to go. We also think that some females may do some kind of cognitive decline where they just stop making as much sense with their choices for their families, and at some point the family will leave. Physiologically, we have no evidence of them doing anything like heart disease or anything like that. Maybe that happens, we don't really know. But we do know that some females do start resorbing calcium as they get older.
An elephant's jaw can be used to determine when the animal died.
But if we look here at this jaw, I can show you how elephant teeth grow, and this is how we can age them. So this is the grinding surface of the tooth. This is all one tooth here. And elephant teeth don't have enamel on the outside like human teeth. They have instead these loops of enamel that are encased in a cement block of dentine. So this is the lower jaw, so there would be another tooth sitting on top of this. And that's the grinding surface where elephants chew up their plant food to swallow it. And when the tooth first comes out of the jaw, these are really proud and you can really feel the ridge. But as the tooth moves to the front and it's been in wear for a longer amount of time, it kind of flattens down and wears out. So what happens is that the new tooth coming in pushes out this old tooth and pushes out the flat grinding surface. So when we look at this tooth, we can measure the overall amount of the tooth, but we can also look at how much of the tooth is in wear and how many loops there are. From that, we can work out which tooth it is, whether it's 1 to 6 in the progression, and also how long it's been in wear, and figure out how old the animal is because of that. Are you having fun there, love? Go on, you can do it. Go on. Well done. So she's dropping the leaf. What she really wants is the pith, the heart of the palm. And you can see how elephants use their tusks. It's a toolkit alongside their trunk.
The sixth set of molars are the last to emerge. When they wear out, it's the beginning of the end. Elephants with worn-out teeth will eventually starve to death.
So this jaw is from Deborah, from one of our oldest matriarchs. And so she looked amazing, almost up until about a month, 6 weeks before her death. And we knew she must be on her last set of teeth and finally able to wear them out. So that you can see there's just almost nothing left on the tooth. So this is the end of the very last enamel loop here. And it's been in wear for such a long time. There's almost nothing left on both sides. So it's kind of sad to see her like this. She's actually even a little bit older than we thought she was. Yeah, I miss having her around. She's definitely one of the females that's made the strongest impression on me.
One secret of longevity seems to be metabolic rate. In general, the larger the animal, the slower its vital functions, and the longer it lives. Smaller animals usually have fast vital rates and short lives. One of the smallest mammals, the shrew, lives only a year. Bowhead whales, however, can live up to 200 years. It's a similar situation for birds and reptiles, though there are some exceptions. One of these exceptions is found in seabirds. Far from the coast, the Gulf of Alaska is home to a small island. There is no one here to welcome you except the ghost of a former U.S. military base. It may not look like an island paradise, but it's the perfect place for kittiwakes. This is the only time of the year when these birds leave the sea and come ashore to breed.
Okay, let's have a look at this bird here, E17. Oh, well, that's a very bold one. Be careful if you weigh the chicks. This one here we had a few days ago. It's a middle-aged one, and I think that's why it's so bold. But it'll be a very good parent because it'll protect its chicks, won't let anyone else come in.
This old radar tower is now an extraordinary laboratory for studying seabird aging.
I have colleagues who are studying wild birds, and they spend all their life just trying to track the animal, trying to find the animal, trying to find their nest. And here we're able to get a huge sample size and do it very easily.
Kittiwakes can live up to 30 years. In comparison, the American crow, with a similar weight, lives only about 10.
If you go back 50, 100 years, there's this idea that every animal could have the same number of heartbeats in its life. If you look at a seabird, it blows that idea out of the water because they're able to have a very high heart rate and live very long. So they're able to have a very expensive lifestyle and maintain that throughout their life.
Working here for several weeks, Kyle Elliott and his team put bands and GPS trackers on the birds.
Yeah, it's a 6-year-old.
Later, the data collected will reveal many aspects of their life at sea.
There are many traits associated with aging in mammals that we don't see in these birds. For instance, metabolism, immunity, oxidative stress, telomeres, all of these things change with age in mammals, but they don't change nearly as rapidly or at all in birds.
Telomeres are small protective regions at the tips of chromosomes. Every time a cell divides, its chromosomes get duplicated and its telomeres get shorter. After a number of divisions, they become too short to protect the genetic material. The cell then replicates with errors or no longer replicates at all. This is the beginning of senescence. A few species of seabirds seem to have unusual resilience to this phenomenon. In the kittiwake, it's impossible to distinguish a young adult from an elderly one on the basis of its appearance. What sets them apart in terms of senescence is not yet known. It may be linked to the action of an enzyme called telomerase, which is known to protect and help regenerate telomeres.
Let's have a look at the band number. 794-28392. That makes her a 1996 bird. She's older than you are. Respect your elder here. She'd be 20 years old, which would be equivalent to about 80 in people years. But look at her. She's in really good condition. You can tell based on how she looks that she was that old. She's got a face that looks she looks just like the last one. The foot is the same, the bill is the same. There's just no real way of telling that she's this old, except that she was banded, 20 years ago. Okay, time to go. What are you doing? Okay. Just some data and get lots of... We've looked at a whole suite of different parameters in terms of senescence, and what we have found a sign of senescence is muscle decay. So perhaps for you and I, as we get old, our muscles decay, our joints get a little bit creakier, it doesn't matter. But for a bird, apparently that can be catastrophic. If their muscles don't work quite as well, they're not able to eat as well, they're not able to defend themselves from predators as well, and that really seems to be where they show senescence.
Once senescence affects a kittiwake's ability to fly, death is not far away. But until then, these birds will continue to ride the breeze, catch fish, and raise their babies. In almost total darkness, another animal defies the rules of longevity. It's captured for study in a special trap.
This is a 3-bank harp trap, and it's got 3 banks of vertical fishing line. It makes their wings close, and they simply fall into the bag at the bottom. So these aren't too tense, as you can see. You can spread them apart. So it's just fishing lines. And when the bats fly along, they hit this and then just slide down the strings and then fall into the bag at the bottom we're just about to put on.
And bats really interest me for a number of reasons. They're a really big, diverse group. So we've got over 1,300 species worldwide, and in the UK we've got 17 breeding species. So that's over a third of our native British mammals are all bats. They're a really understudied group. So we're right at the forefront of actually a lot of the research we're doing. We're finding out lots of new things about a lot of our bats.
Bats are mammals, with young that drink milk from their mothers. But bats have borrowed a lifestyle from birds. They are the only mammals on the planet able to fly. Their strange looks come from their exceptional abilities. Their wings are actually large fingers connected by a tight layer of skin. Their ears are the receivers for echolocation, a system similar to sonar that uses sound to navigate their environment. These tools equip bats with the ability to escape the predators that prowl the forest at night. But wings and sonar are only one key to their amazing longevity. The European barbastel bat lives about 10 times longer than a similar-sized mouse. These bats can live to the age of 23. Their life expectancy is similar to that of a horse. It's unusual for a small mammal with such high metabolism to live so long. This tiny athlete evolved very differently from its land mammal cousins. Daniel Whitby is trying to better understand their distinct evolutionary path.
Bats have to live quite a long time because of their how they breed. Bats are generally only having 1 younger year, and they've got quite high mortality. And they're not breeding when they're very young. Sometimes they're a few years old before they start breeding. So any animal that's got high mortality and a very low reproductive rate has to have a very long lifespan in order to survive long enough, produce enough offspring to repopulate their population.
With this bat, nature has written a different set of rules. It has succeeded at what humans are often trying to achieve, a longer life. All over the world, scientists are working to reveal the secrets of aging. Humans have searched everywhere for answers, from the structure of plants to animal DNA. So far, it's mainly large animals that have guided our quest, and we sometimes forget about the smaller ones. Tiny insects are now revealing new insights into aging and longevity. Though you wouldn't know it from its sprightly appearance, this bee is nearing the end of its life. Soon, its worn-out wings will stop beating. The same fate awaits its thousands of siblings, foraging on flowers in the desert. Until her last wing beat, she continues flying from flower to flower, carefully bringing nectar back to her colony. At Arizona State University, some fascinating research is underway.
I have selected a single bee that has been cold anesthetized, so she has been chilled to the point of no movement. We're going to pick her up gently by the wing and place her into a harness. The important part about strapping her in and to make sure that her tongue or her proboscis is able to move free so that she is securely in, and place her into the testing arena.
Bees have complex brains, well supplied with neurons. Just like humans, bees are capable of learning and remembering. This worker bee is 1 month old. From the moment she emerged from her cell in the honeycomb, she embarked on a specific set of jobs. Just like the life that awaits her thousands of sisters, this bee's life will be one of constant work. But the tasks she must complete will change over time. During her first 2 weeks of life, she is a nurse. She cleans, feeds, and watches over the next generation of her large family. In her second career, she becomes a security guard, protecting the entrance of the hive from intruders. In the last phase of her life, out she goes, gathering pollen and nectar. Less than 2 weeks to explore the world, searching for flowers. It seems a short time to us, but time is all relative. While she and her sisters are out foraging, the researchers in the laboratory set up an experiment. All of the nurses in the hive have been removed. Upon their return, the foragers discover an alarming situation. No one is looking after the young. The emergency dramatically changes the role of the workers. The forager bees abandon their quest for pollen and go back to their former profession as nurses. Following this transformation, an unusual cold numbs her. She wakes up in the laboratory, wrapped in a small plastic tube, where she is now a participant in an experiment on reverse aging of the brain.
To begin the learning experiment, we take a bee and then we begin to blow scented air at her. We associate this with the sugar solution. When she begins to learn, she will begin to stick her tongue out before she even receives the reward. Timing is critical in this procedure. If the bee doesn't feed at the exact right moment, she will not learn and this experiment will fail.
Our old forager, who had returned to her job as a nurse, successfully passed this learning test. The test is repeated using old foragers captured around flowers, but they all fail. Something incredible has just happened. Senescence has been reversed. The brain functions of our bee have been restored to those of her youth. The researchers suspect that the reversal of brain aging may be linked to social contact. This has some important implications for research into Alzheimer's and other degenerative brain diseases. Taking care of the young again, the old bees have managed to achieve what we can still only imagine, reversing the aging of the brain. In northern Germany, the undisturbed waters of this marsh don't appear to be unusual. There are no clues to suggest that a remarkable animal is hiding below the surface. It's an animal considered by some to be immortal. For many years, Thomas Bosch has been probing its mysteries. It is found underwater, attached to aquatic plants. Its name is inspired by a mythical monster, one with many heads that can regenerate if chopped off. Our creature, in some ways, is similar. This is the Hydra. Hydra vulgaris. It's a freshwater jellyfish no bigger than your thumbnail.
Hydra has the capacity to asexual proliferation by budding. That means parental polyps give stem cells into the newly formed buds to make a new adult bud. This ability continuously is present during all time, so that the animals have the ability to produce eternal cell lineages. We want to understand why these stem cell lineages can form eternal lineages, while in most other organisms the stem cells decline in number and function during time and with aging. I find it fascinating that organism in the wild has the capacity to continuously grow. And from the very beginning, I found that intriguing to understand, because it was very clear already at the early days that aging in humans has something to do with stem cells and the loss of function and the loss number of stem cells over time.
The Hydra's body is full of stem cells. Stem cells can reproduce endlessly and form many different types of cells. In humans, for example, stem cells could become cells of the heart, liver, or skin.
Most of the body, with the exception of the top and the bottom of the body axis, is full of stem cells. And in this region, full of stem cells, also new buds are coming out. So Hydra seems to be non-senescent. I do not want to use the term immortal, because there is no immortal organism on this earth. In nature, the animals, of course, are sensitive to environmental hazards, to predators, to pathogens, and so the number of animals which is present in a given pond is of course limited. There is a balance in nature because there are many causes of death. I think we all have to realize that lifespan is limited in any organism, and that lifespan is dictated by genetics, but also by, to a great deal, by environmental factors.
So the Hydra teaches us that even things that seem immortal are not. For these resilient, self-renewing creatures, luck and circumstance still play a part. If they are lucky, zebras can live to the age of 30. But at any time, life can end in an instant. This zebra was not sick, and no weaker than his peers. But he was caught by surprise. Bad luck. That's just the way nature works. Aging in the wild is a challenge, even for predators. Over its lifetime, this scarred old lion has fought many battles. Right now, he's still the leader of his pride. But one day soon, he will become a bit too old to defend his position. After a day in the marsh, the elephants return. Surprise! Danger is lying in wait. There is strength in numbers. Being part of a group provides protection. This matriarch knows what to do. The biggest elephants form a wall, protecting the most vulnerable. They have learned to live with danger. Over time, it's survival of the fittest. And through this evolutionary process, varied lifespans have arisen. Growing old means growing wise. With age comes knowledge like how to avoid danger and how to be a good parent. This wisdom helps a community to thrive. We are just beginning to unravel the complexity of aging. Evolution has shaped many routes to longevity. From beginning to end, each path is unique. The urge to reproduce is one of life's most powerful driving forces. In the animal kingdom, each individual is on a quest to survive, reproduce, and raise young. Some are more successful than others. Selenke, mother of many young lions who have now become mothers themselves, is still fertile, even as a great-great-grandmother. Nobody knows this lioness better than biologist Stephanie Dolrenry.
You can age lions by using their teeth, the color of their teeth, actually, and the wear on their teeth. In the wild, lions generally live up to 14 years of age. There have been a few individuals in protected areas that have made it to about 17 years of age.
Armed with her camera, Stephanie patrols Amboseli National Park and the surrounding area. She has observed this lioness for over 10 years. She's watched her grow up. She first met Selenke in 2007. In the early days, this young lioness stayed mostly within the boundaries of the park, a protected area. Around the age of 3, she and her 2 sisters left the park, straying into the lands of the Maasai. As they explored their new surroundings, they met Lomaniak, a handsome male. Finding him an attractive father for her young, Selenke decided to stay. His territory became her new home. Selenke is now just over 10 years old. Since her first glimpse of this lioness, Stephanie has followed her many pregnancies. 19 so far. Many different fathers have come and gone over the years. Males contribute very little to bringing up lion cubs.
Selenke is our best mother. She's a fabulous mother. She has very high survival rates of all of her cubs. She always makes sure her cubs are fed and fed well, and taken care of and protected.
The lion's share of raising these babies falls to their mother. Selenke has not only taken care of her own cubs, but those of others as well.
Her sister Elekan would get interested in male and would leave Selenke with her cubs. So Selenke actually would raise 2 litters of cubs on her own and was able to do this quite successfully. So she's a fantastic mother.
Cubs are weaned at about 8 months, but depend on their mothers for at least another year. Mastering the art of camouflage and planning a sneak attack requires a lot of practice. By 2 years of age, these cubs will be ready for their first real hunt. In the meantime, Selenke must feed them.
Selenke is, in many ways, she's just like any other lion. But there are some key differences. I think she's very bold. She's able to do whatever it takes to get food for her cubs. She's bold enough to, at night, sneak into communities and jump into a livestock corral to take a goat.
Killing cattle is a major misdeed in the eyes of the Maasai. It is not Selenke's first offense, and not likely to be her last. To protect their herds, villagers sometimes poison lions or kill them with spears. Livestock are an important part of their culture.
Selenke has been hunted, probably more than any other lion in this ecosystem. One sister, Nautica, was speared and killed. One speared, one poisoned. Selenke, she was very, very lucky to survive. Many lions get killed before they turn 10 years old.
So far, almost miraculously, Selenke has escaped being killed by villagers. To avoid lion killings, Stephanie has devised a solution. She is co-founder of the conservation organization Lion Guardians, named for the careful protection provided to the lions with the cooperation of villagers.
So Selenke, we have recently put a collar on her, so the Guardians can keep closer track of her. They can alert herders when she's in a certain area, and they help the herders then move their cattle away from where Selenke is found.
Yangasago Ivan Sari Kabilaron Vangi. Naimor Hegelo Garak. The Yiranangasa Yulu Neri, Nairavangi. Asa Lugarapata Sigri. The Yiranarana, Nabai Ningihu, Erabai.
We've seen her change her behavior and adapt to killing species that lions generally don't take, such as ostrich. There was 1 month Selenke and her family took 10 ostrich in a month, and you just don't hear about that. I really believe part of the success comes from Selenke's knowledge and will to survive. She's adapted to this landscape. And that's something that we've seen pass that knowledge on to her offspring. She has cubs every year and a half. She's having another litter, and she keeps almost all of them alive.
Selenke's line now extends to 5 generations. Each of her cubs has inherited the qualities of their influential mother. She is the most successful female around. She may breed less often as she ages, but she could continue producing cubs until the end of her life.
To watch Selenke age in the wild, and to watch Selenke's family all growing and aging in the wild is, well, really words can't describe it. She's made a life out here, and she's a true survivor. The Guardians themselves just become so invested in one individual who has brought them so many problems. They continue to fight, and it's truly inspirational.
In nature, survival and reproduction are constant challenges. Close to Limoges, in France, a hunt is underway, with the whole village taking part. This is no ordinary hunt. It's a scientific survey repeated year after year. They are not hunting to kill. On the contrary, they want these deer to live a long time. Aging expert Jean-Michel Gaillard leads the research. In studying these deer, he is hoping to uncover some of the secrets of aging.
Le chevreuil est surtout considéré comme un modèle d'étude. Un des objectifs de nos recherches donc, sur l'étude du vieillissement est conduit par la motivation de mieux comprendre notre propre vieillissement, donc le vieillissement humain. On a besoin de trajectoires individuelles, c'est-à-dire la trajectoire, c'est suivre un individu depuis sa naissance jusqu'à sa mort et suivre un certain nombre de traits pour voir s'il y a une variation de ces traits avec l'âge ou pas.
A fawn is born, grows into an adult, and reaches its prime before it gradually declines in vigor with old age. Researchers want to understand how this decline begins. To do this, they study a variety of factors over time. One of them is the capacity to reproduce. In this species, males contribute nothing beyond fertilization. The females are the ones who nurse and care for the calves from birth until they can fend for themselves. The research team is here to conduct their annual checkup.
Elle est née en 2014. Là, on va lui faire un bilan de santé complet. Prise de sang, prélèvement de crotte, prélèvement de poils.
Ah, il y a des tiques.
Là, aujourd'hui, il y a une équipe de Nantes qui vient même prélever les tiques.
The data they've collected since the study began has cleared up many misconceptions.
La sénescence, c'est le déclin de la performance avec l'âge. À l'époque, fin des années 80, la communauté scientifique pensait encore que bien, le phénomène de sénescence dans la nature, c'était quelque chose qui n'était pas du tout fréquent, voire qui était plutôt exceptionnel. On pense que dans la nature, les animaux meurent dans un environnement hostile de prédation, de maladies, d'accidents, bien avant d'avoir atteint l'âge auquel les phénomènes de vieillissement se manifestent.
Following these deer closely for so many years has led to a paradigm shift. It's changed how we think about senescence in deer.
Et on s'aperçoit que, ben oui, dans la nature, on peut détecter de la sénescence. Il y a bien un déclin des performances un peu similaire à ce que l'on observe chez l'homme.
Deer can live to the age of 12, but most won't live that long. There are some exceptions. The oldest known female lived to the age of 17 and a half. The oldest male reached the age of 14.
C'est une chevrette qu'on a déjà capturée.
The doe, or female deer, can start to breed from the age of 2.
Donc là, sur l'écran, je vois que des zones grises, que du tissu.
En ce qui concerne la production des femelles, il est clair qu'il y a un phénomène de sénescence, donc cette diminution de performance avec l'âge, très marquée.
Scientists don't usually discuss menopause in deer, but data from this research team suggests that it does occur.
Après 11 ans, la probabilité d'avoir des embryons qui diminue très très fortement.
Apparemment, elle est vide. Donc, résultat négatif au niveau de la gestation.
Females between the age of 2 and 11 have an equal probability of producing fawns. The most important factor affecting their ability to reproduce is not age, but weight. If they weigh less than 20 kilograms, they are unlikely to conceive. Between 20 and 22 kilograms, they will give birth to one fawn. And if they are heavier than 22 kilograms, they produce twins, or sometimes even triplets. In the wild, females with the most energy reserves, in the form of fat, are the ones who are able to produce the most young.
Là, on voit bien l'embryon sur l'écran. On cherche à savoir s'il y en a un deuxième. Chez le chevreuil, il y a souvent des gestations gémellaires.
Donc cette femelle est née en 2003 et donc elle a été capturée pour la première fois quand elle était chevrillard en février 2004 et elle pesait déjà 17,4 kg, ce qui est nettement au-dessus de la moyenne.
335.
Et adulte, elle a fait jusqu'à 27 kg quand elle avait 6 ans. Les femelles de très bonne qualité qui vont vivre vieilles produisent leurs faons généralement tôt en saison.
This long-term data helps the researchers understand the progress of senescence in the wild. The picture emerging is providing a new perspective. Previously, it was thought that in nature, senescence came suddenly, with many of the body systems breaking down all at once.
Avec ce qu'on connaît aujourd'hui, on peut clairement dire que ce n'est pas le cas et qu'en fait, les fonctions ne commencent pas à diminuer en performance au même moment.
In humans, just like in animals, as time passes, our bodies undergo a slow physical decline. Scientists refer to this idea that different systems of our body decline at different rates as mosaic aging. In deer, one element of aging is a gradual loss of weight. This usually happens after a deer reaches the age of 8. As a direct consequence, the ability to reproduce declines and eventually stops.
Il n'y a pas de trou, elle n'a pas perdu sa bague.
Un de nos objectifs, c'est d'essayer de voir si cette séquence est généralisable à des espèces proches, par exemple les ongulés, puis voir à l'ensemble des mammifères, à l'ensemble des vertébrés, donc voir un petit peu comment ça fonctionne.
Ils vont t'emmener, va avec eux, va.
On a l'impression que chaque fonction a sa propre réponse à la dépendance en l'âge. Et donc ça peut être aussi très important pour l'homme, puisque c'est pareil, on ne s'attend pas à ce que toutes les fonctions commencent à régresser à un même âge.
As we learn more about these deer, we learn more about ourselves. This forest, home to generations of deer, continues to reveal some of its secrets about senescence. Newfoundland. This is a land of fishermen. Whales and birds. The great schools of capelin are back, and gannets fill the skies again. It's spring, and for these birds, that means breeding time has arrived. Gannets form pairs that mate for life. This steep cliff turns into a gigantic noisy nursery. Maybe this juvenile will soon find a partner for life. Bill Montevecchi is one of the region's foremost seabird experts. He's here to count the number of breeding pairs and assess the health of the colony.
This colony is significant for a lot of reasons. The southernmost gannet colony in the world. And there are only 6 gannet colonies in North America.
These birds can live up to the age of about 20, so long-term studies are essential. Research is a risky business on these steep cliffs.
Usually if I can touch the bird with the noose and it doesn't freak him out, we can catch him. Okay. I've got the bird. Okay.
Once the bird is captured, the researchers put a band on its leg.
Good. I'll get the black cloth from Leanne. We cover the eyes, hold the wings. Yeah, this is just a twist on, so it's as good as it's gonna get. Perfect. So just easy, soft release. Perfect. Done.
One day, this bird may return and provide valuable information about gannets' lives. Gannets begin reproducing at the age of 5. Each spring, a pair produces 1 chick. Both parents are devoted caregivers. Their chick is never left unattended. For 3 months, both parents will work endlessly. The feeding trips are relentless, as is their baby's appetite. One parent babysits while the other goes fishing. The sea is their pantry. Spotting the fish is one thing. Catching it is another. It requires practice. Zipping through the water like torpedoes, they can dive up to 20 meters deep. It's quite a spectacle. But the fish are fast. Gannet wings become underwater flippers. This was a good fishing trip. The chick's appetite will be quelled, at least for now. By probing inside its parent's open beak, the chick will get its dinner, a fresh and partially regurgitated fish. These cliffs are crowded, so parents also need to watch out for nasty neighbors and their sharp beaks. One step closer to this neighbor could prove deadly. The dedication of their parents means that most chicks will reach adulthood. But constant parental attention could not save the chicks from disaster in 2012.
In 3 of the last 4 years, we've had extremely hot water, and that's affected the gannets. In fact, in 2012, on the 8th of August, 25,000 birds left here. That white rock is bare except for chicks.
That year, all of the chicks died. Capelin, the gannet's favorite food, changed their habits. Capelin don't like warm water, so these fish had moved down into deeper, colder waters that even these skillful divers couldn't reach.
Gannets, they can dive to 20 meters. If the fish is at 30 meters, because it's in colder water, there can be more fish, but for a gannet, there's no fish. So it's all those contingencies that we try and tap into, and there's a lot of them. And that's essentially what our studies have been. How can they respond to this climate change? How can they respond to this hot water? How can they do that and still be successful at breeding and raising their offspring?
Gannets did return to Cape St. Mary's, but their ability to breed successfully remains precarious. For now, the capelin have returned, allowing the gannets to feed their babies. Whales also benefit from the abundance of capelin. But as the gannet navigates between land and sea, its future in a changing and fragile environment is uncertain. This population now lives in troubled waters. These long-lived birds can afford some bad breeding years. But for this colony to persist into the future, the bounty of the sea will be vital. The Badongo Research Center is home to a community of chimpanzees. To watch this large primate is to see an animal that is uncannily familiar. Chimps are our closest genetic relative, and a species that has long sparked the curiosity of researchers. Chimpanzees are a window into our own behavior. In the world of chimpanzees, sexual interactions have a major influence on their society. Breeding begins in adolescence and can continue into old age.
They're just resting. They've been feeding and Night was grooming Nambi.
Catherine Hobater has watched these chimps for a long time. She knows every member of the Sanso community. Documenting their daily activities, she has witnessed many births and watched these youngsters grow up.
Chimps are born pretty strong. Even little infants who are a few days old are holding tightly to their mum's fur. Once they're a few weeks old or a couple of months, they're swinging about in the canopy with one hand 40 meters up. So they're fairly well developed at a young age. One of the key transitions when you're younger is all of the baby chimps have a little white cottontail, like a bunny rabbit, and they start to lose that as they get a little bit older. That little white tail's maybe just a signal to everybody else in the group, you know, don't hit me, I'm a baby. If I do something wrong, it's, you know, not my fault.
Around the age of 10, chimps undergo physical and hormonal changes. Males get more muscular, and females come into heat for the first time. A chimpanzee can live to the age of 50. As chimps reach old age, they get slower and less energetic.
It's really similar to us. You get a little bit more long-sighted, so you see if they need to look at something. It's like us holding a newspaper. They kind of suddenly have to hold it that little bit further away to see it properly. That gets more and more pronounced, and right at the very end of their life, they might struggle to climb some of the bigger trees or prefer to rest on the ground instead of swinging about in the canopy quite as much.
Chimpanzees live in groups. For them, social status is very important. Their lives are highly politicized. Chimps have alliances, rivalries, and betrayals.
When you're one of the bigger guys, the advantage of being high up in the hierarchy is when the girls are in estrus, you're going to get access to them. If there's good food that's around, you're going to be in the best position, eating the best figs in the tree. So there's a big plus to being in the top ranks.
All sorts of strategies are used to establish dominance. Scaring and threatening your opponent. Fighting. Wielding a big stick. But in choosing your battles, it's unwise to take on someone stronger than yourself. Zig has learned that the hard way. He lost his left eye in a fight.
Zig is a young male who's had a pretty tough life, and he's one of the outsiders in the group. He's got a bad hand, he's got one eye missing, and he doesn't get very much social attention from any of the other males. Nobody grooms him. You've got Frank, one of the big guys, he's one of the big personalities in the male chimps, sitting just behind Zig. And Quera comes over, and she's got her new little baby with her. And Quera comes up to Frank and greets him, totally ignoring Zig. occurs, baby pops off and sort of looks around and just comes straight up to Zig. You know, the little infants they don't care about the politics in the group. Kalima comes over, the other female, and when she comes in, she greets Frank, and all the young ones come back, and everyone there is kind of interacting and grooming and doing everything that chimps normally would do to each other, but poor Zig's left sitting on the path a few meters away, just kind of watching from the outside again. So, tough life.
Social structure is not restricted to males. Females have their own hierarchy. Females and males do not form stable pairs. There is no monogamy in chimpanzees. This female is nearly 50. Few individuals reach this age. Scientists have seen females this old have babies, but it is rare. According to Catherine Hobader, this female is no longer fertile. She is still interested in the males. But the interest is not reciprocated.
We don't know. There's just not that many chimps that reach this point in their life, so we really don't know. And it's one of the behaviors that makes us think that Nambi is in that possibly menopausal period, that even when she cycles, the big guys just aren't interested in her anymore. It's hard to tell, but it must be really strange for her being the dominant alpha female for so many years.
Zig, from where he sits, can only observe the comings and goings of his peers. His chances of mating are very slim.
Zig, and so he's sitting on the edge of the group, kind of watching what's going on, and suddenly around the corner, Caro comes. Caro's a young teenage female.
Caro just reached sexual maturity and is looking to mate.
She's having her first estrus cycles at the moment, but because she was born in Sonso, then the Sonso boys just aren't interested in her.
Caro could be their daughter or their cousin. Males normally prefer females born outside of their social group. This prevents the genetic problems that can come with inbreeding. But Zig, like most low-ranking males, ignores this rule. Caro is about to try her luck. Zig has a rare opportunity.
She's going up to copulate with Zig.
With the act consummated, Caro slips away before she is seen by her peers.
Zig then took some leaves and wiped his penis, so they'll clean themselves after sex, and they might smell that just to maybe get an idea of perhaps if Caro was ovulating or not, so some of those hormonal things. But fingers crossed, maybe that's one of the few chances Zig has to get to be a father.
In 8 months, Carol may give birth to Zig's baby. Sometimes nature makes exceptions. From these daily dramas, a complex society emerges. It's a different world, yet in some ways, it's reminiscent of our own. At the University of Michigan Edwin S. George Reserve, a retired researcher is checking up on 3 turtle species that he has followed since the 1970s. He has been delving into the lives of blandings, snapping, and painted turtles.
These are called hoop traps. Turtles swim around bouncing off the edges, and they never swim in the middle, and so they can't find their way out.
Each turtle is individually marked with a code. Each time it's captured, the researchers gain another layer of turtle history. These turtles can live for so long that understanding them could take a lifetime.
You can see that they smile at frog jokes. There we go. Aging is certainly a key interest of mine. I realized that the longevity of these organisms in the wild was incredible. For example, we caught an 82-year-old Blandings turtle. The 82-year-old female was reproductive. It was on land looking for a place to nest when it was captured.
The secrets of longevity and reproduction in animals have long fascinated biologists like Congdon.
This was the first nest of the nesting season. It's still there. But the snapping turtle would be sitting right here, and the eggs are right there.
Spring is breeding time. In turtle liaisons, copulation is the male's only contribution to the next generation. The female does the rest. She seeks out a safe spot to lay up to 20 eggs. Older females are more successful breeders. They can lay eggs more often. The incubation temperature of the eggs determines the sex of the babies. Usually, the eggs buried deepest become males. Those above are more likely to be females.
They're pretty close to 1-to-1 sex ratio in adults. And how they manage that, they have 200 million years of existing with this temperature-dependent sex determination, so they probably got it worked out.
When the female finishes laying her eggs, she carefully covers them with sand. And then the eggs are left to incubate and hatch all alone.
3 years of this study, that's 3 out of 30, we had 100% of all observed nests destroyed by predators. Seeing raccoons, they will sit there while she's laying eggs, and literally, we've seen this, put their paw under there and catch the egg before it even hits the ground, and eat it, and then put its paw back.
Some of the eggs will be discovered and eaten by predators. But that's not the only danger. A good nest site is critical. Successful incubation of the eggs requires the warmth of the sun. This site has become overgrown with trees and is now too shady.
It has really affected nest survivorship of Blanding's turtles. Spent a lifetime researching here, and I just want to see it go on.
Professor Congdon's data suggests that older turtles know the best places for food. This seems to be true for both males and females.
The older animals seem to know their environment, their core area, better than younger animals do. And as a result, they exploit resources in a more efficient manner, and that would explain how they have the resources to reproduce more frequently and produce larger offspring than younger ones. Yeah, it was pretty good. So this is the longest lived of the three species, Blanding's turtle. Oh my God, he disappeared. Oh, there he is. Age 1, year of life 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This is an incredibly pretty animal. We're taking this one home.
Congdon can then examine all of his subjects in the comfort of his laboratory. He has dedicated his life to uncovering these turtles' secrets. He wonders if they might help reveal another piece of the longevity puzzle.
You should be interested in non-human models of aging because they may give you a clue about senescence, which extends the quality of life, would be, to me, more important than extending the duration, particularly if the quality of the last 20 years is terrible. We should think of this study as the beginning of immortality. I wish mine aging was as slow as the turtles. I would like to feel as young as they do. Okay, we're done. That's it, I think.
In nature, life's journey can take many different paths. For many species, their eggs are their legacy.
I certainly hope to be back next year.
In nature, dominance, strength, and leadership require experience. That experience comes with age. To defend a territory and secure a mate, the biggest and strongest individuals usually have an advantage. Here on the savannah, it's a critical time. Male elephants are in must, and they are in hot pursuit of females to mate with.
Everybody comes back in from the outlying, far-flung parts of the ecosystem where they've been hanging out.
Researcher Vicki Fishlock is a guest at this elephant gathering. She studies their behavior and is curious to know what dramas this year will bring.
This time of year, everyone's got lots of energy, and that's what gives them the catalyst to have all this social interaction going on. And we get a lot of estrus females available at this time of year. Older males are coming back for mating.
With all of these males in must, the savanna becomes a gigantic stage for epic battles as males fight with other males for the opportunity to mate. Everyone tries their luck. It's a fierce competition.
Dominance is about age because it's about size. So the biggest males are the oldest males, and they're the ones who are getting most of the mating opportunities. You'll see that they kind of press down on each other's faces. It's really about size assessment and relative strength. That smaller male is like, yep, you're bigger than me, I'm backing off.
Vicky returns to the field camp.
This little calf this morning that had very, very thin tusks. Some of them do, it's just different.
Cynthia Moss is a world-renowned expert who has closely followed the social lives of these elephants since the 1970s. Vicky is continuing the research that Cynthia began nearly half a century ago, documenting elephant life in Amboseli. Thanks to this closely followed family history, they have come to understand that a male named Big Tim has a big influence. He's a powerful but gentle giant.
So this is Tim. This is our poster boy. He is really a prime Amboseli male. He's probably our top breeding male. But what makes him so special is he's such a sweet personality. He's really nice with the females. He's just an excellent, excellent male, and he is passing on his genes to the next generation.
Big Tim, at almost 50 years old, is one of the oldest and most successful males around. As he approaches middle age, his huge tusks practically scrape the ground as he walks. Big Tim is a veteran leader, but before his rise to dominance, he was small and inexperienced. He had much to learn as he rose through the ranks. From birth until the age of 4, a baby elephant requires a lot of care and attention from its mother.
Male calves are much more demanding than female calves. They suckle more frequently, they're more difficult to wean.
Little by little, a baby elephant becomes more independent.
They play differently from females. They have games where they spar, head-to-head sparring, testing each other's strength.
Elephants reach adolescence between the ages of 5 and 14. At this age, they get braver, exploring their environment and making new friends. Most males leave their maternal group by the end of adolescence, though Moss has seen some exceptions.
There are a few bulls who are mama's boys, and we have one that stayed until he was 18 and another until he was 19 years old. He'd be right next to her all the time. He'd be following her, just like a one-year-old. He did not go until she died.
Far from their mothers, siblings, aunts, and cousins, these teenage elephants make a new start. Their new lives in bachelor herds bring adventures, opportunities, and risks.
Bulls will leave when they're 14, and it's a very dangerous time for males because this is when they have accidents. They go into human habitation and get speared. So we lose quite a few bulls in that age group,
Learning doesn't stop once young males have survived the dangerous tests and risks of adolescence. They continue to learn tips from their elders on how to attract females.
Males become the same height as the tallest females when they're 18, so you can see he's just a little bit taller than the female who just walked in front of him. So males of this age sometimes come and hang out with families, and they're learning about being with females. But by this age, the females aren't terribly keen on hanging out with them because they don't want to mate with these guys. They're far too young. Because males of this age are really competent. They're perfectly able to father calves, and they're big enough to mount a female and mate. But they're not proven. So females are choosy. They don't want to mate with these males. They want to mate with the big guys who have proven their quality by surviving 40 years and more. So I'm sorry, buddy, you've got a little bit of way to go. Another 20 years or so.
In males, true sexual maturity, from a social point of view, is reached around the age of 30. As a mature male's body undergoes a surge in testosterone, he will come into must. This happens just once a year.
What must basically is what scientists call honest advertising. And that means that he has a completely different change of posture. He carries his head really high and then dribbling the strong-smelling combination of urine and other, components, which leaves a scent trail. And then they have a special ear wave like this, that both ears separately. We think it wafts the smell of the temporal gland. And usually there's a rumble that goes with that ear wave, and it's very characteristic. It's very low frequency, so it carries very far. And he's also advertising to the other bulls, I'm in very good condition, and I've lived long enough to get here, and I'm surging with testosterone, and I'll kill you if you try to interfere with me.
And a lot of male behavior is about assessing rivals. So this is typical male behavior, this cruising, testing. Now he also has to worry about this male who's in the middle here, and they're similar size, so this is why somebody's backing off.
The battle is fierce. The blows are powerful. Males can be seriously or fatally injured from these fights.
I've seen males bleed from their ears after fights because they're running at each other with such force. These are really, really major contests.
This male is inexperienced. But he tries his luck at chasing a female. Over the years, his efforts to impress the females will improve.
Usually she can outrun them. She's lighter and faster because a female has choice and doesn't have to mate with a bull she doesn't want to mate with.
So this is Tim. This is a male who's at the top of his physical condition. He doesn't need to fight with everybody, but he's the boss.
The dominant older males tend to be the most popular with the females. These calm giants are more experienced and know how to put females at ease. Older males are looked up to by the calves. There's no doubt about Big Tim's popularity.
You will see kind of 2- and 3-year-olds following these big males with their trunks up going, "Ooh, what's that?"
Literally an honor guard. They would all stand there and they put their heads really low and they reach their trunks out and just give him this honor guard.
If you told me when I worked in Congo that I would let musk males get this close to my car, I would have told you that you were insane.
This female follows him, and he leads the way. More than one female is vying for his attention. The other males watch Big Tim in awe. Many fear him, but others are opportunists.
Younger males might sneak in and be able to mate. But then usually what will happen is a dominant male will mate afterwards, and that's usually the last male who mates who fathers the calf.
Big Tim has fathered many babies. Although he may have more years behind him than in front of him, he is still in charge. And until his death, he will continue to pass on his genes.
When people take the time to watch elephants, there's something about them that just brings people in. And I think partly it's because you don't have to be an expert to understand when elephants are having a good time. It's all affection, and it's very, very easy to see that. And I think that's one of the things that make elephants so special.
It takes charisma and strength to be dominant. Antlers, horns, and tusks are useful for asserting your dominance. This is the alpine marmot. Here, high in the French Alps, the climate is harsh. But some animals have carved out a life here. In this rodent, there is no negotiation over the hierarchy. Here, mom and dad rule. Their subordinates are their youngsters of varying ages. Young adults, juveniles, and babies. The dominant couple mate for life. The duo command respect and keep young rebels in line. In the midst of these meadows riddled with marmot burrows is the research center of the Grand Sassier Reserve. Here, a long-lived marmot might reach the age of 16. Scientists are investigating how social relationships affect their longevity. The head couple monopolizes all of the mating opportunities. No other adults are allowed to mate. In spring, researchers begin their annual observations. For the last 25 years, they have captured these marmots and monitored their pregnancies. Marmots are caught regularly to learn how aging affects their reproductive success. Scans allow researchers to see if females are pregnant and get an idea of when and how many pups will be born. 3 or 4 is a typical litter, though mothers can produce as few as 1 and as many as 7 babies. The researchers can make out 3 marmot embryos inside their mother. This is good news for the dominant pair, who will soon have 3 more helpers in their territory. The more help parents receive from their offspring, the slower they age. In a few more weeks, this female will give birth. Spring makes way for summer. It's a season of plenty. On the marmot menu, greens and flowers.
Donc là, tu vois, ils commencent à être bien actifs. Ils ont dû sortir vers 7 heures. Ils sont restés un moment sur le terrier, attendre que ça se réchauffe un petit peu, et puis progressivement, ils vont manger.
Dominic Allinet is a specialist in behavioral and evolutionary ecology. As a professor and researcher, one of his important roles is passing along his knowledge to new students.
La présence de marmottes aide, influence la vie des dominants parce que, justement, en les aidant, ça permet aux dominants de réduire leur investissement énergétique, leur investissement parental. Tu as des subordonnés qui rentrent du foin. Ils vont rentrer du foin dans le terrier principal comme ça, soit dans le terrier où il y a les petits. On a montré que quand il y avait des présences d'aide, alors l'âge de début de vieillissement est retardé dans le temps et est moins important en intensité.
If a predator approaches, a security guard sounds the alarm. The family unit provides safety in numbers. For now, the danger is averted.
Souvent, les dominants surveillent. En général, ce sont aussi les dominants qui marquent. Le dominant, il va faire le tour de son territoire. Souvent, il gratte et puis il va frotter sa joue. Il va déposer une substance odorante qui va dire attention aux étrangers, attention là vous êtes chez moi. Il y en a qui se battent là.
C'est que ça.
Alors il y a souvent comme ça des bagarres à la limite de deux territoires. Deux individus de deux territoires différents se rencontrent à la frontière. Et donc là, ils se battent souvent. Les compétiteurs, ça peut être des individus mâles en vadrouille qui essayent de trouver une position de dominant quelque part, mais ça peut aussi éventuellement être un challenge avec ses propres subordonnés, ses propres aides, parce qu'évidemment les aides en vieillissant vont devenir sexuellement matures et ils vont avoir besoin de se reproduire. J'ai même vu des combats mortels. Celle qui a perdu, là, s'en va.
The marmot that retreats after a chase runs the risk of dying alone. The baby marmots have been born. Their freshly opened eyes are taking in the world around them. Dominic's study has revealed that mother marmots can actually adjust the sex ratio of their young. Whether parents can have the ability to regulate the sex of their offspring has long intrigued evolutionary biologists.
Elles ont besoin d'avoir des mâles avec elles. Et lorsqu'elles n'en ont pas, probablement qu'il y a une situation de stress qui fait qu'elles ont tendance à produire plus de mâles. Et l'hypothèse la plus probable, c'est que justement les mâles aident les parents à élever les jeunes, ce que ne font visiblement pas ou beaucoup moins les femelles.
The help that young marmots provide to their parents is especially evident during hibernation. These young marmots are unaware of what lies ahead, but soon they will have to endure 6 months of fasting under the snow. Deep in the burrow, all the marmots snuggle together for warmth. For babies, their older siblings and parents are like miniature radiators, heaters that make the difference between life and death.
Il y en a à peu près 40% qui survivent en moyenne. Et là, la présence d'aide est assez importante puisque quand il n'y en a pas, il y a relativement peu de survie des marmotons. Ça peut descendre jusqu'à 20-25%. Quand il y a beaucoup d'aide, ça peut monter presque à 100%.
For the moment, the sun is shining, but high in the mountains, the summer warmth doesn't last very long. While the baby marmots are playing, the rest of the family is more focused. To prepare for winter, you need to eat a lot. Marmots munch as many plants as they can to accumulate fat stores to get them through the winter. Marmots have been living here, growing up in this hierarchy for millennia. One day, this dominant couple will reach an age where they will be pushed out as youngsters rise to take their place. From a distance, these mountains evoke a vast wilderness and the resilience of nature. Up close, we enter the land of the big horned sheep. Master of the mountain, it's one of the most agile large mammals in North America. This open vista allows detection of approaching wolves, cougars, or coyotes. Life in a group has its ups and downs.
Some interesting population dynamics. What makes it so that some years the population goes up, some years it comes down? Is it predation, weather, population density, disease? So some of the ewes will have a lamb that survives every year. Some of them, the lamb doesn't survive or they don't produce a lamb. Why is that?
Marco Festa Bianche is trying to figure out what drives these population fluctuations. He studies, amongst other things, the influence of an individual's rank in the social hierarchy. Males and females of this species are easily distinguished. Over time, male horns form a spiral. Those of females look like small spikes throughout their lives. In this harsh environment, longevity is a challenge. Few rams reach the age of 11. Marco once recorded a 14-year-old male, but this elderly ram was an exception. For a male, growing old has its disadvantages. The older he gets, the greater his chances of dying from disease or capture by a predator. Yet at the same time, a male's horns grow larger with age, and bigger horns are more attractive to the females.
To become a large ram with big horns, he needs to be a very good individual. And some of it is finding good food, but some of it also is having the good genetic composition that allows him to survive longer, to grow large horns, and to become a dominant ram.
Rutting season has begun. The female will be in heat for about 36 hours. That's a short window of opportunity for a male. Males constantly sniff the urine of females for critical information about her fertility. From her scent, he can tell that she will soon be ovulating. In hopes of becoming a father, he follows the scent trail. This sheep has an advantage over the other males in the neighborhood. He is the male with the biggest horns. He knows the routine. He's had experience in other mating seasons. When the female is ready to copulate, he shoos away all of his potential competitors, including the young rams. Before charging an opponent, he gives very clear warning signals.
There is a number of behaviors that they will use. They kind of bend their neck and approach the other ram on what we call a low stretch, with their sort of nose forward. They'll approach the subordinate ram and kick it. They'll kick with the front leg.
There are numerous competitors to deal with before copulation can safely begin. For this subordinate, a kick with his hoof was not enough. Perhaps the horns will be more convincing.
The male has to beat up other rams. Occasionally, they will clash their horns. And usually, the subordinate ram can tell right away the other one is stronger. It's really a matter of force, because it's the mass of the horn, the mass of the body behind it, and that's what carries the impact. And there's no point in him trying when he knows he's going to lose and risk getting injured, and so he just walks away.
But subordinate males don't always yield so easily. Allegiances make it possible to continually challenge the dominant male and the female he's trying to mate with. The commotion sometimes creates an opportunity for a younger male to sneak in and attempt copulation with the female. The female observes the situation. The hierarchy of rams is linear and well established. Male number 1 will always win in battles against male number 2. Likewise, male number 2 always beats male number 3, and so on. Once a male has successfully mated with a female, he leaves her and seeks another female in heat. The other males likewise disperse. Ram number 2 will have to wait his turn. With age, bad luck for male number 1 will provide an opportunity for male number 2 to rise in rank. But for now, the alpha male is king of the mountain, the sought-after sire. For many animals, size is critical. Female elk have a clear preference. They prefer males that are big, strong, and healthy. A male must demonstrate his prowess. His antlers are his business card. Every year, his advertising begins anew. At the beginning of winter, he unloads this heavy burden. In winter, outside the breeding season, he has no need for his antlers. Now the focus is on survival. Spring, the season of renewal, has returned. Males seek out mineral salts essential to the regrowth of their antlers. A fine, soft velvet covers the growing antlers. The velvet is fed by tiny blood vessels that nourish the developing bone. Now, fall is just around the corner. The antlers are ready for showing off. The male's frame has had to adjust to the extra weight. At the edge of the forest, females are noticeably agitated. The scent of their urine is rich in hormones. Males are on a mission to pass on their genes. For the dominant males, the best way to do that is by building a harem. The stage is set for violent clashes. Male elk are fueled by testosterone. Scent marking with urine, rubbing of antlers, and loud bugling are all signs that the rut has begun. Some individuals, like this male, have no hesitation in defending their rank. No intruders of any kind are tolerated on this male's territory. His message is clear. This is my territory. I'm the boss, so beware. A male's bugle is a message to the other males in the area. This is my harem. Keep out. I will defend my females at all costs. A duel is imminent. This clearing becomes an arena for the fight. The rules are clear. I push you, you push me. A tangled clash ensues. These are highly evolved combat weapons. Shaped through natural selection, their form allows most males to be spared punctured eyes and deep wounds. To retreat under the thrust of the opponent is to concede him the victory. Fights can be violent and spectacular. During the rut, all of the male's energy is spent defending his harem. For the dominant males that have survived, the end of the rutting season may bring total exhaustion. Wolves are on high alert. Many individuals will not survive the coming winter. The spoils of reproduction may cost males their lives. But for the males that are successful, their efforts live on in the next generation. The Kenyan savanna is home to many mammals, including the yellow baboon. This primate has been the focus of research going on for over 40 years.
I don't know if it's worth going into the grove. What do you think, Jean? Should we drive in here and see if we can see anything?
Yeah, I guess we could try, because that grove, they do sometimes just move from one part of it to another.
Jean Altman, who began this research, is retiring. 8 generations of baboons later, Elizabeth Archie is quietly taking her place. Hierarchy is at the heart of the baboon's daily life. The two scientists want to know why some individuals dominate over others.
Baboons, they're really good at making a living in what seems like a very challenging area. And part of it is there's not water, there's not permanent water. And most of the water in this region comes from the rainwater on Kilimanjaro.
In the early 1960s, when Altman accompanied her husband to Africa, the young mathematician never suspected she would make this environment her own. But upon seeing the baboons, it was love at first sight. She has passed on her infectious curiosity to many scientists and the world beyond.
Like standing in this spot, I often think of this as it's like the panorama of baboon land, you know, where the baboons live. Almost everywhere we can see here are places where the baboons we study live. And those groves of trees are really important to them because that's where they sleep at night. So for safety, you know, they climb up into those trees, they sleep in the trees.
But the food is on the ground, so they must leave the safety of the trees to find it. Baboons travel in groups. But when it comes to searching for food, it's every baboon for itself. For Jean and Elizabeth, all the baboons of this community are like old friends. They know their life stories and their unique personalities. They're on the lookout for one female in particular.
I think that's Nike.
This female here standing and feeding is 17 years old. She's still very reproductively active and bearing infants and taking care of herself.
Right, so Nike has 2 sons. And she's been unlucky, in some ways, to have 2 sons because for baboons, their closest social bonds are usually their female relatives, so their sisters and their daughters. But she hasn't had any daughters. That means she doesn't really have a big family to surround her. She's a little bit isolated.
Whether dominant or subordinate, a daughter inherits her social rank from her mother. But a mother always remains superior in rank to her daughter. There are occasional exceptions, such as the bond between Cobra and her daughter Connick. Connick fought with her mother and eventually superseded her rank in the hierarchy.
Her daughters and other members of her family actually harassed her.
For an aging female, her family is important. They are the marks of her social status.
Baboons don't feed each other. They also don't tend to the elderly in any specific ways, but having a supportive, positive social environment is helpful.
Group life involves rules. Each member of the group occupies a well-defined position, and everyone knows their place.
Baboons have a very strong dominance hierarchy. It's pretty separate dominance hierarchy, males and females, and all the subadult and adult males are dominant to the adult females.
Males dominate females, but females have their own hierarchy. High social status comes with benefits, like access to food. It also has a big influence on the lives of the young baboons. This one is lucky. His mother is a dominant female. To attack him would be an assault on a female respected by the whole community. For this young one, it's the opposite. His mother has a low social rank. He's likely to have a childhood of harassment. He may even be kidnapped. His mother's momentary lapse in surveillance is seized upon. A nearby female grabs the little one, and he has no choice but to cling on to his captor.
This week that happened, a female named Opal. The infant had been kidnapped by a juvenile female, and as the day went on, the infant became weaker and weaker after being carried around in this environment where they need lots of fluid.
By noon, it became obvious that the little one would not survive. The next day, scientists discovered its lifeless body.
It usually happens to first-time mothers because low-ranking mothers, again, learn after the first time that they have to be more protective. They don't necessarily start out that way.
To rise in the hierarchy, subordinate females try to form allegiances with dominant females. They must forge friendships and demonstrate their value to others. The more friends and parents they have around them, the more help is available in a time of need.
In baboons, it takes a family and a group, and that's true in humans.
In a group, you don't just make friends. You navigate the hardships of life, and baboons need to help each other to succeed and survive. Recently, a major challenge has faced this group: a drought. Significant environmental changes disrupted the entire ecosystem. In the last few years, the baboons have been forced to adapt to a lack of water and then a lack of food. Over time, the meager plant seeds and elephant dung became some of their only options. Times were tough. Eventually, they had to leave the area.
They gradually moved westward, and they moved outside the national park. They moved into the larger Amboseli Basin. Individuals don't want to leave that homeland. They don't want to migrate to other areas. That's a big, scary thing to do, and they did that.
Jean Altman's research has demonstrated that the group has a positive effect on the resilience of individuals.
We found that high-ranking animals are better able to withstand that early trauma, the offspring of high-ranking mothers, so that social buffering occurs as well.
Their decision to leave was a good one. In their new surroundings, with more rainfall, they can make a better life.
If baboons were going to teach you a lesson about aging, it would be keep your family, keep your friendships, maintain those social bonds, and that's how you're most likely to have sort of a healthy, long, successful aging.
As Jean reaches the finish line of her career, she will leave the baboons and return to her family.
It's likely to be my last day in the field, and that's always a bittersweet time. I think a lot about what good times I've had, but it's hard to leave.
The baboons have enriched her life, and her research has left a valuable legacy for the scientific community.
I feel so lucky to have been here this time and every time.
Not everyone has the opportunity to learn from their experiences. But an animal that can remember its past and adapt its behavior in the future has an obvious advantage. Older animals are rich in the wisdom of their experiences. Some species are wiser than others, and within species, certain individuals stand out. Here, in southern Alaska, at the headwaters of the Chilkoot River, the salmon are back. Grizzlies are the rulers of this river. One quick swipe of a paw and dinner is served. Grizzlies live solitary lives. They don't like to share and fiercely defend their territory. Other bears know it's best not to test their limits. Males and females seek each other out only during the breeding season. Their union is brief. Only females raise the young. This female lives on the banks of the Chilkoot River. Born near the village, she has learned to live with humans. Each year, prospect of catching the returning salmon brings both bears and humans to the river.
For me, bears really represent the last wilderness.
Shannon Donahue of the Great Bear Foundation is passionate about these bears. Her detailed understanding of their lives is helping to protect them.
So the bear that we were watching on the Chilkoot River, bear 235, is a bear that I've been watching for the last 6 seasons. She's an 11-year-old brown bear. She was raised on that river. She learned to fish on that river in close proximity to other humans, and she's adapted to having heavy human use. Some people in the community have given her the nickname Speedy because of her behavior of moving up and down the river corridor really quickly.
Big males are a threat. They can injure or even kill females and their young. Speedy lives on the border of 2 worlds, between big males and humans. So she is always on high alert for danger.
Over the years, though, I've seen her behavior change. In the first year that I watched her, she had her first set of cubs. She was a new mom and just kind of trying to figure out how to navigate the river with these 2 cubs. And she was just figuring it out as she went along. At times, she was leaving the cubs behind and not being, terribly protective of them.
In the wild, curiosity is an advantage for finding food or shelter. But close to humans, it can also prove fatal. When left behind by their mother to fend for themselves, Speedy's cubs were mischievous. They rifled through coolers, stole fish from the fishermen, and learned to eat garbage. Growing up, the cubs had learned habits that made them dangerous to their human neighbors. Eventually, they were destroyed.
After she lost her first cubs, the next year she had 1 single cub. And she reared that one on the river just like the previous 2, but she went into the den, and we don't know what happened to that next cub. She came out the following spring without the cub, so it may have just died in the den over the winter, or it may have fallen prey to another bear. So that any number of things could have happened to that cub.
In this land of the grizzly, 2/3 of cubs don't survive their first year.
But that's, 2 sets of cubs that she's struck out on, and now she's on her 3rd set of cubs. And so these cubs that she has with her now were born this year in January or February. They're about 8 or 9 months old. And we're just watching them develop on the river. And we're hoping that they have, a brighter future than the last cubs. I am starting to see that bear mature. And she does seem to be a lot more protective, a lot more vigilant, and she is trying to keep her cubs away from people more. So we're hoping that these cubs will have a better fate and will learn to behave a little bit more appropriately around people.
If all goes well, Speedy will spend 2 years raising her cubs, investing in their future. Following her like a shadow, they imitate her behaviors to learn the critical skills of being a bear. Speedy is no more skillful or less awkward than other bears. But over time, she has learned from her mistakes. This time, her 2 cubs have graduated beyond the most critical period of their lives. They are proof that their mother is wiser now than in the past. And for her cubs, that wisdom makes all the difference. The waters of Washington State's San Juan Islands on the Pacific coast are home to a community of killer whales that live here year-round. Orcas, or killer whales, live in a matriarchal system. The head of the pod is always a mother, who in time becomes a grandmother, and sometimes even a great-grandmother. Ken Balcom has studied orcas here for nearly 40 years. Carefully studying their social behaviors within clans, he is especially fond of one whale in particular.
There she is again.
J2 is the matriarch of J-Pod. She is the oldest known orca on Earth. The locals here have affectionately nicknamed her Granny.
Granny, or J2, was fully adult when we started the study in 1976, and far as we could tell, her oldest baby was probably born in 1952, and she's been post-reproductive since 1976. And that would put her around, 106 right now.
Orcas are one of the few animals outside of humans in which individuals can live on long after they've stopped reproducing. The typical life expectancy for male orcas is 60, with females living up to 90 years. Granny has beaten the odds. All orcas are thought to communicate with the same basic language, but each pod has its own accent. With a hydrophone, it's easy to pick out Granny's voice. There is a conversation going on here. Scientists haven't yet learned to speak whale. But they do know that within pods, orca sounds convey important information. Experienced females communicate critical information to youngsters, including life skills like how to use echolocation to find salmon, and knowing when to dive deep to avoid an approaching boat. Perhaps they are even getting tips on who to mate with and when. Older females are the keepers of valuable information. The survival of the pod depends on this wise female sage, especially when it comes to finding fish.
And we know that the oldest females are still in the groups, even though a lot of the others have died. I think a natural reason for that would be that they have the wisdom of the 80 or more years of where to find the food. And the old girls seem the holders of that knowledge. So Granny's a great participant in all that.
Even recently, well past her 100th birthday, Granny had been healthy and alert. But Ken has also seen hints that little by little, this great matriarch's habits have been changing. Ken gets a call on his radio to alert him that there are orcas in the bay. Maybe it's Granny.
All right, many thanks.
Ken sets off to find out. In the waters of the San Juan Islands, there are two very different types of orcas. Resident orcas, like Granny's pod, and transient orcas, which are nomads. Almost like two distinct species, they have totally different lifestyles. At first glance, Ken sees only the transients. No sign of Granny and her pod. Over the last decade, the number of resident orcas has declined.
Well, we've definitely seen a regime shift in the faunal composition of the habitat here. The transient whales, the ones that are meat eaters eating seals, sea lions, other marine mammals are finding plenty of food at this point. In the case of the residents, historically, their food supplies, the salmon, were available in all months of the year. We know from the fishery biologists that the salmon population, half of them are already extinct, and the other half are threatened or going extinct. This is not good, because this is their food supply.
For resident orcas like Granny, salmon declines are bad news. Resident orca teeth and bones have evolved to match their diet. The resident whales have specialized to eat only fish. So if salmon are scarce, they will have no choice but to leave and find food in new places. Finding food is a matter of life or death. It has been several weeks since Ken has caught sight of Granny. Her visits have been less and less frequent. Ken wonders where she's taken her family.
Here's along the Oregon coast, 2 locations that we had. And about 75 miles a day is their travel up and down. So they can make a round trip to California in 2 weeks.
Ken is getting more and more worried. Where is Granny and her pod? He is determined to find them.
So far, this looks like another very bad year. In the case of the residents, the indication are there's not even enough food to make it interesting for them to come here. And so what am I going to do? Am I going to keep on studying in a void, or am I going to go to where they are? I'm going to find out where they are and go there. That's what has to be. I'll wait a year for them to show up here, but beyond that, I have to go wherever they are.
The search continues for many months, but there is still no sign of Granny. There's little doubt now that her long life has ended. Granny's death leaves a huge void in the whale community. Neither her pod nor Ken will forget this formidable female. But her pod lives on. They are proof that her wisdom survives in her descendants. To learn, we need to remember, and get help from the elders that teach us. In the African savanna, one animal is known for its exceptional wisdom. The largest of all land animals, its ability to learn and remember is amazing. At birth, baby elephants are defenseless. Their vision is poor, their legs are wobbly, and they haven't yet mastered the use of their trunk. Without the close attention of their elders, baby elephants can easily suffer from heat stroke and exhaustion. For this 3-day-old elephant, it's difficult to get a grip on this slippery path. Its mother leads the way, checking with her tail to make sure that her youngster is close behind. Fortunately, grandmother was close by too and helps the little one up with her trunk. Just as well, because a hyena has its eye on this baby that, if unguarded, would be easy prey. Cynthia Moss has been studying the elephants of Amboseli for decades. The wealth of knowledge she and her team have accumulated is unparalleled. At 77, she continues to survey the 400 square kilometer park from her all-terrain vehicle.
I came to Amboseli in 1967. That was my first elephant, actually, I saw here. I came as a tourist originally. I very soon fell in love with elephants. I decided to set up a camp here in 1975. And then I started inviting other people to come in to do studies with me. And, you know, elephants are complex animals, and I realized that there was no way that I could study both the females and calves and their families and the bulls, because they're like two different species. You know, the bulls live a totally different life, and in different places, not only different life, but in different areas. When I started it, oh, I'll do this for a 3-year study. And that's what I thought. I don't know what I thought I was going to do next, but I didn't think this was a long-term study. And then somewhere along the way, I knew this was a lifetime of work. And here I am, 43 years later.
In elephant society, groups of females live with their young. The extended family is led by the oldest female of the group, the matriarch. Understanding the lives of elephants is about understanding their social connections. Here, many of these elephants have been followed throughout their entire lives. Females are capable of breeding by the age of 13, but Cynthia has noticed that young mothers often struggle and their firstborns don't always survive. When baby elephants are weaned at the age of 3 or 4, their mothers may become pregnant again. It's a cycle that repeats for much of a female elephant's life. Over the years, Cynthia has joined the dots, connecting their genetic relationships. To Cynthia, many of the elephants in this family tree are like old friends.
Is that Gaia?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gaia?
Yeah.
Her 12 female.
Okay. This is a GB?
Yes, this is George's daughter.
And the GB family had such an interesting history. I didn't meet them until 1970.
This is Georgia, the daughter of Gladys. Gladys died at the age of 46. In 1976, Cynthia Moss met the GB family for the first time. At that time, Gloria was the family's matriarch. She had no tusks, but took charge as the leader. Gloria had many sisters, including Geraldine, Gladys, and Grace. After Gloria died, the family divided.
Grace left the family completely with her daughters and their calves. And apparently she didn't get along very well with Geraldine, who was the next oldest and was taking over. And that family I've always considered one of the hero families of the of Amboseli, because when I first met Grace, she was young and had no calves. And by the time she left, there were 16 members of her family. So that is an incredible build from nothing to having had, 4 daughters, and then the daughters had calves. And it was fascinating to watch her and her success as a matriarch.
It takes a village to raise a child. It also takes a whole herd to raise an elephant. The reproductive success of the family also rests on a baby's aunts and sisters. All older animals within the herd participate in the education and protection of the young. Grandmothers have a dual role. They help their daughters to be good mothers, and they help to protect and educate their grandchildren. A grandmother will teach her daughter how to defend herself and her baby against predators, and where to find water. Telling the difference between a youngster's whim and a real emergency is also part of learning to be a new mother. Elephant grandmothers help their daughters throughout their lives, and as some grandchildren grow up, new ones are born. Not unlike humans, growing up is a slow process for elephants. Elephants rely on education and support from their elders for 15 to 20 years. One day, youth will give way to adulthood. Meanwhile, these two cousins enjoy a playful childhood under the watchful eyes of their clan. The bonds they forge with their carefree games will last a lifetime. Every member of the family weaves a thread into the tapestry of the clan. The fluidity of groups over time, in size, space, and membership is what scientists call a fission fusion society.
Yeah, that's Genesis's baby. Is it Genesis? I think it should be Genesis.
Grace died a few years ago. I think it was in 2008. And what was interesting was after that, and after Geraldine also died, the rest of Grace's family started coming back to the original GBs. It's so fascinating to watch those kinds of dynamics, and this is what really makes them, in the short term, a fission fusion society, but also in the long term, because there was Grace, who was always seen just with hers for, like 10 years. And then as soon as she died, her daughters started coming back to the older females in the original GB family.
This is Gail, the eldest daughter of Grace, who was matriarch until she died. Gail returns to her cousins in the GB family. One day she may well become the family's great matriarch. Diplomatic and calm, Gail knows how to deal with any personality. She can guide youngsters safely through the savannah. The GB family owes its success to the wisdom of its matriarchs.
When I first started the project, the average family size was 7, and now the average family size is over 20. And how many are they now? Also in their 40s, isn't it?
Yeah, they were 44, and I think that they might be 48 now. I have to count them up even.
growing up, learning, making connections, and sharing knowledge. The onward, orderly march of the elephants is the embodiment of centuries of wisdom that comes with age. For wild animals, every day brings a new set of risks. In Yellowstone National Park, a species reintroduced in 1995 is gradually regaining lost ground. As keystone predators, the reintroduction of wolves has rebalanced an ecosystem that was missing a crucial link. Wolves are highly social, and within the pack, elders command respect. John and Mary Tiberge have traveled around North America for over 40 years in pursuit of wolf packs. They are preparing for a magical moment that is imminent. As the sun rises on Wyoming, wolves are already on the move.
The wolves are crepuscular and nocturnal. They don't wait for an alarm clock to wake them up. They move all the time, and we're out here just as they get into their morning scrum, where the family gets together and does a jubilant howl.
Wolves have a reputation in folklore and farming as aggressive and scary animals. More recently, scientists have revealed their close social bonds and respect for their family and elders.
We have babysitters at rendezvous sites. Very often we found in the studies that we've been doing that some of these babysitters are either yearlings within the pack, and to our surprise, we've often had granddads or grandmothers being the babysitters at that time too.
But these scrum situations we see with the wolves, we feel it's very significant to bond the group almost psychologically, and everybody feels good and warm and fuzzy and part of the group, and it's interesting to see these wolves. You don't know why they suddenly come together and do it. What can be that function? Well, it's a very important function if it helps keep that social unit bonded together.
Locating wolves is not an easy task. Fortunately, several individuals are wearing radio collars, allowing researchers to follow them from a distance. One of these wolves is famous in Yellowstone. At 8 years old, Wolf 755 is one of the oldest. Typically, a 6-year-old wolf is considered a senior. But the oldest known individual here reached the impressive age of 12 and a half. Biologist Kira Cassidy is passionate about these old wolves.
One of the wolves that really strikes me
is number 755. He has had a number of different mates, all who have died in various ways, and so he's had a pretty rough life. Some wolves get together with a mate when they disperse from their natal pack, and that's who they stay with for the rest of their life. And 755, he showed up for the first time when the Druid pack. He showed up and he was this huge, black, gorgeous wolf.
755 has grown grayer over time. With his second mate, he founded the Lamar Canyon Wolf Pack. The couple were together for 3 years before his mate strayed outside the park and was killed by hunters. Today, male 755 has a new female, and he has become a father for the first time in 3 years.
Another thing that's really fascinating about 755 is I think he has this social adeptness that not a lot of other wolves have. Being able to join a pack, first of all, that already has an alpha male is pretty rare. And then being able to negotiate his way between all these really large packs and still be able to survive is really interesting.
In Yellowstone National Park, 2/3 of wolf mortality is a result of wolves killed by hostile members of another pack. In these clashes between wolf packs, elders are often the key to winning the battle.
I think what an old wolf brings to the pack is experience and leadership. And they've been through a bunch of these encounters before. They can maybe avoid interactions they know they can't win, which just ups their winning percentages. So they use all of their past knowledge and experience to help their pack stay safe and survive.
On any given day in the life of a wolf, just searching for food can end in tragedy. The violent blow of one hoof can spell the end. Though slightly wounded, this wolf has defied the odds and survived. His ability to cope with adversity is remarkable. Despite his handicap, he remains the leader of his pack.
We can learn a lot from wolves, in particular how they treat the most elderly among them. And so most of the time in a wolf pack, it's the oldest wolves who are the breeding pair, and the rest of the pack is normally their offspring. And so they show a great deal of respect for the oldest individuals.
Older wolves are the glue that binds a pack together. If an old wolf dies, the entire pack may disperse.
Wolves are better than us at valuing each other, their elderly especially. They're amazing at raising their pups. The entire pack, they all work ceaselessly to bring food back to the pups and the nursing mother. It's their entire focus. They're much better at caring for each other than we are.
Old wolves are the pack's wise sages. Young wolves know their place. They are models of respect, cooperation, and community under the leadership of their elders. In return, these wise old wolves protect the younger, less experienced members of the pack. These primates are masters at learning and adapting. Found in 25 African countries, the range of this olive baboon continues to expand. This troop is led by a dominant male who gained leadership with a hostile takeover. An omnivore, this primate eats just about anything it can sink its teeth into. Fresh leaves, tubers, seeds, fruits, mushrooms, insects, and rodents, even gazelle is sometimes on the menu. Its adaptable nature has allowed it to survive and its populations to spread. But today, like many animals of the forest, it is facing the challenge that comes with another superior invader, humans. Each day, urban sprawl and clear-cutting to make way for farming claims a little bit more of the forest. Many animals have retreated, but not the baboons. They've adapted fairly well. With the arrival of humans came a new food source: farmers' fields. Why work hard to find food in the forest when you can get fast food for free? The forest is rich in insects and leaves, but it's hard to resist the root vegetables, corn, and potatoes grown by humans. Knowing the lure of their crops, the villagers must be constantly on their guard for baboons. In turn, to plan the opportune time to steal meals, baboons keep a close watch on the farmers. It's not a friendly relationship. The dominant male must be bold. It's not his first robbery. He has learned that patience and discretion are the keys to this life of crime. But he is not alone on his mission. He is the leader of his band of bandits. His followers know the drill. Each baboon watches from its post. Waiting for the right time to pounce. The youngest baboons observe each step of the approach, learning from their more experienced mentors. The leader and his faithful followers prepare for the raid. Some keep a watchful eye from above. At any moment, if their sneak attack is discovered, the baboons need to sound the alarm and be ready in an instant to flee spears, stones, and guard dogs. Some potatoes are stolen in this successful snatch and grab. The meal ends abruptly as their crime is discovered. And the hungry criminals flee into hiding in the forest. This time, the farmers haven't lost much. Nor have baboons who get away with their thievery. They've left for now, but they'll be back. For the farmers, the key consequence is not the loss of a few plants, it's that the young baboons have learned how to steal. A new generation of thieves are learning this novel lifestyle. A life of crime from their elders. Adapting to change is one thing, but capitalizing on new circumstances is quite another. The clever olive baboon is capable of both. And the passing down of this skill as the young learn from their elders is their ticket to success. Learning from experience, transmitting that knowledge to others, and improving their abilities with age helps animals to get ahead in their own game of life and provides an advantage in the bigger game of evolution. Cold, famine, injury, predators, disease. Any of these challenges may lead to the end. The fight for life is a constant struggle, and sooner or later, the battle will be lost. Others are waiting in the wings to take their place. Sometimes, in a fleeting moment, everything changes, and life is lost. Death is inevitable for every living thing. It may come early or late, but death's certainty is ever present. Evolution has shaped the longevity of each species. If an animal is lucky to survive long enough, certain clues may indicate the end is near. Many mysteries still surround the body's breakdown over time. This is one reason scientists are interested in investigating different end-of-life pathways. There may be some lessons to be learned from the pre-programmed deaths of sockeye salmon. After several years in the Pacific Ocean, mature sockeye travel upriver, swimming against the current, often returning to the same place where they were hatched. Millions of salmon respond to the instinct to embark on this journey from seas to rivers and lakes. At journey's end, death awaits, a spectacular mass death. These rivers have seen salmon make this journey for thousands of years, yet aspects of the journey remain a mystery. To complete the last few kilometers of their life, salmon bodies undergo a radical transformation. Their skin turns red, and the males develop a strange hooked nose or kype as a weapon for fighting. This transformative last act has only one aim: reproduction. Males fight with their hooked snouts in a battle for dominance, showing off their strength to choosy females. Sockeye salmon are an example of a species that breeds only once in their lifetime, so the stakes are high. Year after year, scientist Tom Quinn carefully watches the salmon run on the river.
The combination of the arduous migration upstream, the physically taxing process of building nests and reproducing causes high mortality rates on the adults. They put all of their energy into eggs, and those have a high probability of surviving to replace the population. People ask me how it could have evolved, and I say, 500 million salmon can't be wrong. It seems to be working very, very well for them, even though as humans it seems like an implausible thing to do.
Males arrive before females and stake out a territory. Before laying her eggs, a female carefully selects a nest spot. Scoping out her surroundings, a female accounts for the speed of the current, water depth, and temperature. With her favorite spot chosen, she seizes the moment. Using her tail, she digs a pit. Here she will lay and bury thousands of eggs that males are eager to fertilize. The future generation of sockeye will never see its parents. The developing embryos are buried just beneath the gravel. Until the last bits of energy are sapped from their bodies, females protect their nests. All the while, their bodies are declining. Soon, the river will reek of death, and all will die at roughly the same time. It's coordinated chaos.
The deterioration of their body is just astonishingly rapid. I've seen it for decades, over and over again, and yet it's still hard for me to believe that within 1, 2, 3 weeks, these animals that are so vigorous will inevitably die.
Since arriving in fresh water, these salmon have stopped eating. Their reserves are exhausted. Their immune system shuts down, fungal infections develop, and wounds do not heal anymore. Eventually, the salmon are too weak to carry on. But their death brings new life to the entire ecosystem. Their carcasses nourish bears, birds, and insects. Leftovers feed the soil with vital nutrients that rejuvenate plants and trees.
So the density of bears, the size of bears, the abundance and size of fishes like rainbow trout and dollyvarden are all related to the abundance of salmon. Literally, if you turned off the salmon, the entire ecosystem would change.
Next spring, as tiny fish emerge from the gravel, the cycle begins again. Of the female's thousands of fertilized eggs, perhaps 10% have survived the winter. The new generation will spend a year or more in their natal waters before embarking on their parents' journey, in reverse, heading to the sea. On this next quest, only a fraction will reach their destination. After 2 years at sea, maybe a dozen of these now fully grown salmon will return to the place that they hatched. In the meantime, life lies ahead. For some animals, the forest provides everything they need: food, shelter, and a place to find a mate. Growing old in the wild means skillfully navigating the dangers of life. Only a lucky few will reach old age. Here in the boreal forest, the king of this place is the moose. Pierre Vaillancourt, nicknamed Pierre the Wolf, knows this forest intimately.
Pour moi, l'orignal, c'est une bête incroyable. L'orignal est adapté à vivre dans une nature très rude. C'est un cervidé qui est extraordinaire, fort, à la fois puissant et en même temps capable d'être discret, de marcher à pas d'orignal sans se faire entendre dans la mousse. Et pour moi, de me retrouver à la fin septembre, début octobre, dans la période du rut, et d'avoir la chance de faire des périodes d'affût au lever, au coucher du jour, c'est quelque chose d'extraordinaire.
In the wild, moose can live to be 20 years old, but few survive this long. Here, hunting is the main cause of mortality. Weighing up to 700 kilograms, moose are a popular target. Today, hunting is less for food and more for sport. But in the Montmorency forest, there is no hunting allowed. Wolves don't follow these rules. They prey on the young and weak moose. Periodically, moose are counted by helicopter. Their locations and numbers are mapped.
Lorsque j'ai commencé mon travail de guide naturaliste, je guidais des safaris d'observation de l'orignal. Pour moi, ça, c'est un trésor. C'est une carte au trésor. C'est plus qu'une carte de pirate, parce que le trésor vivant, il est là. C'est une femelle orignale avec son veau qui a réussi à passer au travers de l'hiver. C'est un gros mâle géniteur ici que j'appelle Julien, qui est le dominant du secteur, qui, lui, passe l'hiver tout seul. D'après moi, il a un sale caractère. C'est son frère que j'ai baptisé Bob.
To understand the life history of these moose, from birth to death, Pierre patrols the forest.
C'est une autre indication que probablement les loups et les orignaux sont pas loin parce que les corbeaux vont se nourrir sur les carcasses d'orignaux que les loups vont avoir tués. Fait que moi, je suis certain, sans que ça soit prouvé scientifiquement, là, les corbeaux sont dans les airs, repèrent les orignaux, crient, attirent les loups font une prédation sur l'orignal, les corbeaux en profitent après.
If the ravens are truly spies for the wolves, the moose cannot escape this aerial surveillance. Eventually, they must flee or face the wolves. In order to survive, moose must contend not only with wolves, but also with harsh winters. To get through the winter when food is scarce, moose need a layer of fat as insurance. As snow carpets the ground, it becomes more difficult and tiring to get around. Moose need to find food and shelter. Their resting place is called a yard.
Il faut comprendre qu'à la forêt Montmorency, sur le massif des Laurentides, il tombe 6 mètres de neige en moyenne par hiver. L'orignal doit être fort pour passer à travers l'hiver. Et les plus petits veaux qui viennent au monde tard ont moins de chances de survivre. Cette orignale-là, je la connais. Martine et son jeune veau sont en excellente santé. Ils ont une alimentation de qualité. On peut le voir par rapport à la qualité du poil. Un beau poil, brillant. Le jeune veau, c'était un veau de très bonne grosseur. Lui aussi avec un bon pourcentage de gras. Alors, 2 orignaux en parfaite santé qui vont sûrement avoir une longue vie si les loups ne les trouvent pas.
Having seen Martine mate with Julien in the fall, Pierre suspects she may be pregnant. If so, this spring, a baby moose will see its first dawn. The newborn is welcomed amidst the winter's last snow. Its first steps show its naive curiosity. Caution will come later as it builds life experience. During the winter, thanks in part to the dead moose, the ravens have survived and life goes on.
L'orignal au Québec, il y a beaucoup de contraintes pour sa survie. Il y a entre 13 000 et 20 000 orignaux déclarés abattus à la chasse à chaque automne au Québec. La population d'orignal se porte tout de même très bien. On parle d'environ 100 à 125 000 orignaux sur le territoire forestier québécois. Lui a eu la chance de passer au travers des loups, a eu la chance de passer au travers des ours, qui sont des prédateurs efficaces. C'est un animal qui demande quand même à être respecté, à être laissé tranquille en hiver pour pas qu'il dépense d'énergie inutilement.
For a moose, this male has reached a wise old age. In the mild temperatures of another summer, he grazes slowly in the waters, seizing the moment one season at a time. For thousands of years, a small white whale has inhabited the waters of the mighty St. Lawrence River. Here, far away from its Arctic cousins, it has evolved in isolation, writing its own unique story. At the beginning of the 20th century, there were some 10,000 belugas. Today, there are about 900. Heavily hunted until 1979, its population has still not recovered. Though no longer extensively hunted, the small surviving population has been under assault from another threat: toxins in the water. Though water quality has considerably improved since attention was first drawn to this issue, the St. Lawrence beluga is now an endangered species.
Alors, l'histoire des belugas, c'est en quelque sorte l'histoire du Saint-Laurent du dernier siècle. Quand on se préoccupe de l'état de santé d'un beluga, on se préoccupe finalement de l'état de santé du Saint-Laurent au cours des dernières décennies. Alors, le beluga est en quelque sorte un livre ouvert sur le Saint-Laurent. Son histoire, c'est celle du Saint-Laurent.
Biologist Robert Michaud has accumulated decades of knowledge about these belugas.
En bas de la barre de courant pour l'instant. Il y avait deux groupes près de la barre de courant, on a un autre groupe devant nous.
By better understanding belugas, he aims to better protect them.
J'ai commencé à étudier les belugas alors qu'on pensait que les belugas vivaient seulement une trentaine d'années. Puis on sait aujourd'hui que les belugas vivent 2 fois plus longtemps qu'on le croyait autrefois. On croyait qu'ils vivaient entre 30 et 40 ans. Ils vivent en fait entre 60 et 80 ans. Évidemment, il y a des animaux que je connais depuis une trentaine d'années. Je les ai connus tout petits. Ils ont commencé à avoir des jeunes seulement 12-15 ans après le début de notre étude. Et maintenant, on commence à voir leurs petits-enfants. On connaît des grands-mères maintenant. Et ça jette un regard assez particulier sur notre travail. Leur vie est aussi longue que notre espérance de carrière comme biologiste. Alors, je ne verrai probablement pas la fin de l'histoire.
Because they are pure white, it is difficult to tell most belugas apart. But Michaud can identify a small proportion of males and females from their unique marks and scars. One individual seen recently is female DL-169, also known as Yogi.
Ses premières documentations photos remontent à 1977. En 1977, c'était déjà un adulte bien blanc. Donc, admettons qu'elle avait 12 ans en 1976, ce qui lui donne autour de 50 ans cette année.
Yogi is no longer breeding, but still stays near other females and young.
Alors, ça soulève toutes sortes de belles questions pour nous, à savoir qu'est-ce qu'elle fait, c'est quoi son rôle, si elle ne produit pas, pourquoi on vit aussi vieux. Le but de la vie devrait être se reproduire, mais quand on ne se reproduit pas, pourquoi on vit encore? Est-ce qu'on a un rôle à jouer? Je n'ai pas les réponses à ces questions-là, évidemment, mais je pense que les belugas pourraient nous le raconter.
Robert Michaud's work has helped us to better understand individual differences between belugas in where they live, who they associate with, and how they communicate. These talkative, whistling whales have been nicknamed the canaries of the sea, though we can only guess at what they are saying. The researchers are curious, and so are the belugas. Often it's the whales that appear to be studying the researchers.
On dirait une véritable garderie. 6 ou 7, des tout jeunes, des animaux de l'âge de 3 à 5 ans qui se tiennent ensemble. On a seulement quelques adultes avec eux. Leur principale occupation, ces jeunes, c'est d'être curieux. Mais quand ils expriment cette curiosité-là envers nous, ah!
It's the young whales that are of greatest concern to Robert. In recent years, there has been a high mortality of pregnant mothers and their newborns. Losing the young jeopardizes the future of the whole population. And an adult loss means a loss of wisdom that helps the young whales navigate their world. To this researcher, it's clear that the health of the beluga reflects the health of the river. The whales he studies are slowly disappearing, and he's worried about the future.
Le déclin récent de la population demeure inexpliqué pour l'instant. On a plusieurs hypothèses. Le réchauffement de l'eau, la disparition de la glace, les nouveaux contaminants qui ont augmenté très rapidement dans les années 90 pourraient avoir un effet important sur la santé des femelles qui pourrait entraîner et peut-être expliquer une partie des mortalités des nouveau-nés. Et notre autre hypothèse, c'est le dérangement. À partir de 2010, on a commencé à noter plus de co-occurrence entre les belugas et les petits bateaux, les plaisanciers. Et ça pourrait entraîner des complications lors de la naissance. Alors, les saisons où il fait très beau, où il y a beaucoup de navigation de plaisance, c'est des saisons où on a enregistré beaucoup de mortalité chez les nouveau-nés.
Will these whales, which have inhabited these waters for 10,000 years, be gone in just a few decades? Their fate is in our hands.
J'ai peine à imaginer la disparition des belugas du Saint-Laurent. En fait, ce serait un échec lamentable de nos efforts des dernières décennies pour sauver cette population-là. Si on arrive à sauver les belugas du Saint-Laurent, c'est qu'on aura réussi à assainir ce milieu. C'est qu'on aura fait les compromis nécessaires pour mieux partager ce milieu extraordinaire-là avec d'autres êtres vivants.
In nature, some enemies are invisible, but powerful. Tiny disease-causing organisms can take down even the biggest and strongest. This giraffe seems to have succumbed to a skin virus. Its death is a boon to hungry scavengers. Scavengers have evolved an unusual resistance to the challenges of consuming rotten meat. Nothing is wasted here. Bones are often the only evidence left behind of past life. Life may be long or short, but inevitably it comes to an end. The end for some marks the beginning for others. Land animals face the threat of predators, parasites, disease, and a harsh climate. But one animal has largely bypassed these threats and somehow has even developed a resistance to cancer. Digging out a life almost entirely underground, this creature almost never sees the light of day. At the University of Rochester, Vera Gorbanova has reconstructed an underground city rarely seen in the wild by building a plexiglass tunnel system in her laboratory. It looks much like a rat, but its underground habits are more reminiscent of the mole. Folded, papery, translucent skin and long, skinny front teeth give the mole rat its strange appearance. In the wild, it is only found in East Africa.
And then this animal, you can see the social behavior of animals come in one chamber, and they like to be like skin-to-skin contact with each other.
In mole rat colonies, the only female that reproduces is the queen. Her offspring are sired by a harem of males. It is a lifestyle well known in eusocial insects like bees, ants, and termites. But the mole rat is unique among mammals, the only one to have adopted this way of living. This small mammal is a member of the rodent family, yet compared to the mouse, it has a life expectancy 10 times longer. Mole rats can live to be 30 years old. Their unusual longevity makes them a source of scientific fascination. By studying long-lived animals, the hope is we can identify mechanisms that prevent the diseases typically associated with aging.
Well, we've been interested for a long time in the ability of cells to repair DNA damage. So more recently, we found that cells from longer-lived species can repair DNA damage more efficiently, and we also found some of the mechanisms responsible for this difference.
It's an exciting discovery, but it doesn't end there. The naked mole rat is also exceptionally resistant to cancer.
And naked mole rats are very resistant to cancer. Cancer is very rare in these animals, and there were even experiments where people tried to induce cancer with carcinogens, and again they saw that naked mole rats are very resistant.
Why can this peculiar animal largely resist cancer's uncontrollable cell growth? Vera Gorbanova and her team have discovered that the mole rat cells produce a special molecule, a polysaccharide that inhibits tumor formation.
But what's really exciting is that because human body also produces the same substance, so it's not something foreign. And this way we could hope to transfer this mechanism directly imported from naked mole rats and bringing it to humans.
This scientist's dream? Perhaps humans can borrow the cancer-resisting solution evolved by the mole rat.
So long life is always tied to health and longer years of healthy life. And that's exactly what we want to achieve here for humans. We don't want to prolong sickness, we want to prolong health. We want to prolong productive years of life where people can be active, they will be healthy, and they can just enjoy life for longer.
In the big picture of evolution, the mole rat has forged its own separate path. Can we learn from the secrets of this strange subterranean mammal? We can only hope. Therapies for age-related illnesses might be found in places we least expect them, in organisms very different from us. Life on our planet comes in many forms. Some of the living have no heart, no eyes, and no legs, but live long lives. Trees germinate, grow, breathe, and reproduce. And one day, they fall. This forest may not look unusual, but compared with most, its form is unique. All of the trees in this forest are aspen, but not only that, they are genetically identical. They are clones. Each trunk is an offshoot of the same individual. This one superorganism is named Pando. Paul Rogers has known Pando for a long time.
The Pando clone is a one genetically identical being. All these stems you see behind me are all genetically identical and therefore thought to be the largest living thing on Earth.
Scientists estimate the combined weight of these tree clones at 6,000 tons.
It's interesting that whenever this did originate, this stand, it came from a seed about the size of a pepper grain, and now it's this massive thing that's 43 hectares in size.
Pando may hold another record. Some scientists have speculated that Pando may be one of the oldest living things in the world, with its origin dating back 80,000 years. Since it began life as a tiny seed, this Goliath has overcome a series of obstacles: lightning, fire, frost, and herbivores. It has been continuously regenerating itself for thousands of years. One of the secrets of its longevity is how it shares resources between trunks. Each tree is connected to the matrix through its roots. In spite of its strength through the ages, Pando is now weakening. This giant is slowly dying.
Pando is currently deteriorating. A lot of the older trees are dying. They're laying on the ground. We've referred to those as bones, but they're coming down faster and faster. They're getting to an age where they die rather quickly. The unusual part is that there's no younger trees to replace them. There's no babies, there's no teenagers, no middle age. Imagine if you were in a small town in which everybody in that town was a senior citizen. It would not be a sustainable community for very long. You need that age diversity in a human population, in animal and plant populations, and certainly within this clone to survive long term. Otherwise, we could have things all crash and die here within a matter of a decade or two, which is in the middle of what's happening right now.
In recent years, there have been fewer and fewer young shoots. The problem is increased grazing by herbivores. Since the disappearance of wolves from the area, deer have become superabundant. The livestock that grazes here adds additional pressure. The clone can no longer replenish itself with young shoots. Lack of diversity in tree height shows that the younger generation is declining. It's been unable to get a foothold for many years.
This is an organism that's been here for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and suddenly it's collapsing on our watch. And that points the finger directly back at us as humans and how this area has been managed. I think what I find fascinating in studying this clone is that all we need to do is give it a little breathing room and it can regenerate, and that's a good, healthy thing. The different looks of Pando in different seasons is fun to look at. Different colors, different moods, you might say, of this giant clone. And to be in here among it, all these stems is sort of humbling as a scientist.
Pando is a special form of life. If it disappears, its uniqueness vanishes forever. Clinging on to life for months or even years, death is now just around the corner. As this bear enters its den for winter, will it reemerge to see another spring? Fear of death is firmly anchored in the human psyche. But what about other creatures? Does the looming specter of death also cross the minds of animals? Do some animals choose a place to die? It's difficult to know if animals have a sense of their impending mortality. Very few species display an obvious reaction to the death of their own. In some cultures, the crow is a herald of catastrophe, a symbol of misfortune. In this urban park in Seattle, a researcher is conducting an experiment on this crow. Biologist Kaylee Swift is taking a close look at how crows react to death. So that the experimental conditions are repeatable, a mask is essential. It means that each researcher's face looks the same to the crows.
Essentially, how we designed this experiment is we would identify a territorial pair of adult crows. We would start feeding them for 3 days. That gave us a baseline of how quickly they would come down to the food. And then on the 4th day, we would introduce our dangerous stimulus.
One of the essential research tools? The stuffed carcass of a dead crow. A nearby crow spots the corpse. Its reaction is immediate. First one, and then a whole flock begin to sound the alarm.
Essentially what happens when a crow discovers a dead crow is that bird will produce what we call a scold call. It's an alarm response. And what that does is that scolding results in the recruitment of other birds to the area, potentially a large mob. And together, those birds will continue making those alarm vocalizations. They'll fly around the area.
Each time the experiment is repeated, it provokes the same response. Now conditioned to see a masked human as a harbinger of death, the mask alone sparks the same reaction. Are the crows scared? Sad? Angry? Does their reaction suggest a form of mourning? The experiment continues in the laboratory. Using a scanner, John Marsloff, director of the research team, wants to visualize the reaction and understand its origin inside the bird's brain. What's discovered is that the brain regions activated are those associated with recognizing danger. This means it's possible that these birds feel emotions.
Now, when we look at these animals' brains, when we think about how important emotion is to our own success as human beings, there's no reason that these animals couldn't be expressing those same capabilities in terms of grief is important, love is important. All of these things are, I think, are really crucial to our success. And so there's no reason why they wouldn't also be crucial in the success of something like a crow. But whether or not we can definitively say whether or not these animals are expressing those things, you know, until we develop the technology where I can just ask them and they can give me an answer, I don't know that we'll ever know for sure.
As far as we can tell, most animals don't seem to have any sense of their impending death. An awareness of death requires a specialized awareness of life. And that requires self-awareness. Does our nearest genetic relative have an awareness of death? Primatologists are exploring this question. Are they aware of their own mortality? Catherine Hobater is an expert on chimpanzees. Her daily task? Documenting their social interactions and decoding their communication. Over the years, she has developed a bond with this chimp community. They have come to trust her. By closely following their social lives, she is trying to understand their motivations.
Chimps are drama queens, so there's turmoil and high emotions over all kinds of things. You know, they're going to get super excited about different fig trees coming in like we've seen today. It kind of sounds like something amazing is happening, and it's just they found some new food this morning. Equally, some of the really high drama things will be when a new baby is introduced to the community. So females will go away for a couple of days and come back with a new baby. We kind of always keep our fingers crossed because that can go well, but if the tensions are really high, then sometimes you can get infanticide or the baby might be hurt. Your heart tells you you just want to go and intervene and help and do something, and we can't. You know, we have to be scientists and we have to be observers and just record and just kind of watch what happens, and that's a part of their natural behavior. That's what chimpanzees do. So we need to try to understand that and find out the reasons why that happens. But it's a tough day in the forest, and you certainly see, I mean, it's tough on us, but it's tough on the chimps too. So when a female's lost her baby like that, she's gonna probably go away, be on her own for a little while. She'll just be very much kind of closed off. You know, if she was a human, we would say she was depressed. She won't engage socially, she won't groom so much. She just has a little quiet time to kind of pick herself back up again. It's really hard to tell, but from their behavior, it would seem they definitely experience something like depression.
While we try not to project our human feelings onto animals, it's also presumptuous to assume that they do not feel anything that resembles emotions. The roots of mourning may indeed lie here, in the depths of the jungle. The African savanna is the land of elephants. The GB family plods the age-old trail worn by their ancestors. In elephants, over time, the knowledge gained from experience is passed on from mother to daughter. Elephants have excellent memories. They even remember their dead. Along the path, they come across some elephant remains. They stop. A few years ago, an elephant died here. She was an elephant the researchers called Graka. Graka was a member of the GB family. Now, whenever the GB family passes this spot along the path, each elephant takes the time to feel what remains of the dead elephant, her trunk, her skull, her bones. In elephants, the importance of family, combined with a long life expectancy, may hint at an explanation for this memory of the deceased. To live a long time, one must remember. Time on Earth varies enormously. For some, life is long. For others, it is fleeting. Each species has taken its own path. So much changes with age. As time marches on, it affects our social rank, our ability to reproduce, our wisdom, and our bonds with others. We are just beginning to grasp how these changes through time take place in nature. Every organism has its own way of navigating life's path. Each species adds its own value to Earth's biodiversity. Aging is continuous and begins the moment we are born. As we age, our paths may be diverse, but our stories all have the same ending. The end of the precious journey we call life.